Well, look who's back, everybody. We're back. You all thought we were gone. You thought we quit. You said, this guy stopped doing it after 10 years of doing it. Finally, that stupid ass. We are back. Had a little bit of break during the holidays, had some traveling going on, and just had shit to do, everybody. But you know what? Can't stop a podcast. Just can't stop it. And, I got the thing plugged in. I got the airboard, and why not? I mean, I paid all this money for the shit. I might as well have a show. And we got a great show for you today, everybody. We got a lot to talk about. For those of you who remember how the show goes, we open the show with "Let me ask you" with our guest, and then, of course, did you hear stories from around the world that you may or may not have heard? And of course, word association. Let's associate with the guest, where I throw out a word or phrase, and they get to tell me the first thing that comes to their mind. So, without further ado, let's start with our guest today, my good friend and regular on the show, Mr. Steve Mudflap McGrew, and second time on the show, my friend and fellow comedian Jeff Shaw. What's up, fellas?
Hey, guys.
Howdy!
We got Mini Pearl here, everybody. Welcome to the show, guys. It's been a long time. I think Jeff was on probably about 8 months ago. Yeah. Dude, I just had one of those things where I'm like, all this stuff going on, all the traveling going on. I'm just, and then I had somebody who canceled on me I won't mention it, but they would say, well, okay, I'm ready to do it. And then the night of the show, the day of the show, oh, I can't do it. I got COVID. Okay, what are you going to do? And then, okay, 2 weeks. Okay, can you do it? Yeah, I'm great. I'm fine. Oh, I have leprosy. What the fuck? I'm like, you know what? Like, can you tell me 2 days ago? But nevertheless, just a frustration. But I figured let's bring it back big with you two fellas on the show.
It's kind of a long-haired show.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. It's the hippie show, the hippie podcast.
Yeah, my long hair just can cover up my red, Nick.
Let's put
See,
the
that's
band
the way
back
it is.
together.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's get the
we're
band back together. Yeah.
You guys look like rockers. I look like the drummer from fucking what was the Night Ranger?
I was thinking more like the Ruggles or something,
That's one of my favorite movies, man.
The Ruggles?
It's the trousers. Definitely the trousers.
Yeah. I think it might be better than Spinal Tap.
I think so. Yeah.
Really?
Have you seen that movie, Dougie? It was Monty Python associated send up of the Beatles, kind of like Spinal Tap treatment of the Beatles.
No, I haven't, and I need to see it because you mentioned a couple were like somebody brought up the movie Animal House, which I hadn't seen in a long time, so I went and just got it and watched it again. And Spinal Tap has probably been decades since I've seen it, and but Ruggles, I'm gonna put
gotta check it out.
We'll do it. I mentioned bands, and can a band succeed if the lead singer is the drummer? Can a front man be the drummer? I mean, really?
Yes.
Only if he sings ballads.
Well, the Eagles did it, but they had many other people singing. They had Joe Walsh, Jeff,
Glenn Fry.
What's his name? Glenn Fry, and they had other people, but and I don't know why Benny Blades, who was the bass player for Night Ranger, didn't sing, because he sang pretty much. But the guy, the drummer was like, "No, I'm going to sing. I wrote it. I'm going to sing it." And I'm like, it's just kind of hard to watch it lead.
And he mostly just sang ballads. And then there was you remember Triumph from Canada?
Yeah.
Their drummer sang songs, but only the ones that never made it to the radio.
Yeah, kind of like well, Ringo did it once. I think Ringo he sang "Act Naturally" or something like that for him.
And Yellow Submarine. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's right.
I saw a band just recently. I've never seen it before. You know how typically a band lines up the guitar, singer, bass, drums in the back? It was actually set up in reverse. The drum was in front and the band was curved behind him. And the drummer was the lead singer. It was a country band in Vegas.
Oh, wow. Do you remember the name of the band? Or?
No, I don't. I should have paid more attention because it was like, wow, this is different, But that's all I remember. It was like, well, I've never seen a drummer out front.
Yeah. No, now
See, even
you can see
country
Jeff
bands
has
are inspired by Night Ranger.
this. See, there you go. Jeff has a guitar player. He's got several guitars in his background. I know you've strummed some instruments, right there, Steve. You play guitar as well.
Yeah,
a bit.
I've got like 6 guitars in my office right next door to where I am here.
Wow.
But
I have one guitar left.
Seriously, I have not played my guitar since my band broke up 12 years ago. I have not even picked up the guitar.
Wow.
I've seriously been thinking about going down to Guitar City and go, what do you give me for all of this?
Well, I was just saying before you came on the show, I used to play guitar and I played in bands when I was younger, and I had several guitars. I had an Ibanez Destroyer, a Gibson ES 335, and SG, and just one day I just stopped playing. And there's nothing worse than when you're actually pretty good at something and then you decline. It's like, and I would try to play and I would be like, oh, fuck. Because, I fought. My problem is I play guitar. I was a goalkeeper in soccer and I was a fighter. So, eventually my hands would lose that dexterity, to strum it and hold it. So then I'm like, not, my wife bought me a Martin acoustic, and I was trying to learn a few songs just so I could play them. I think I freak out other comics, and because I got a pretty good voice and actually sing and play some songs and be, oh my God. And then, I try to strum them and stuff and I get frustrated. I'm like, I almost El Kabongo the guitar because I'm so mad because I can't play it anymore. That's the same as making love. I almost forgot how to make love, but that's a different story.
It's sort of the same thing. There's a comic named Chris Bono. Do you know him? An LA comic, but he started out down in Texas, and he's an artist, a comic artist, does a lot of graphics that he sells and commissions, like real art. And he and I were talking the other day because that's what I did before I did stand-up. I was a cartoonist for the Houston newspaper. And Chris said, yeah, I used to see your stuff when I was little. And he always thought it was great that, that a comic was actually getting paid to do art. And so I've tried recently to get back into art because I haven't drawn anything in years. That's what I went to college for.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. My hand was like, man, did you forget what a face looks like? If you stop doing things, you just absolutely sort of lose it.
Oh yeah,
Steve, do you remember a comedian from San Diego by the name of Steve Kelly? He was a cartoonist for the San Diego Tribune.
Yeah, I remember that. He did the editorial cartoons. Very, very
right. Good. The political ones, yeah.
Yeah, he started doing a lot of stand-up, and I always wondered if he was going to transition the same way, like I'm going to go make more money doing stand-up.
I was always fascinated by comics who can sit in a hotel room and work on 2 paychecks, work on their act for that night, and then also like either send in a column or a screenplay or a cartoon and make money. I always thought that was cool that comics had 2 revenue streams that they can work on while they're on the road at the same time.
Yeah, that's weird to me. I don't know how it works. Well, our fiduciary friend right here basically does that, but there was so much time in hotel rooms that my wife would go, well, why don't you just sit down and finally write the book you've always wanted to write? What do you do all day? It's hard to focus like that. It's hard to get your brain to go, I'm in a hotel room. I need to write the novel that I've always wanted to write.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that I have to do one project at a time. If I'm working on a book or working on something or social media jokes or whatever, I have to work on that. If I'm working on my act, I have to work on that. Like I don't have enough, I even try to divide my days between booking and busy work and writing because I have to focus on one thing.
Well, that's because multitasking is not real. People always talk about, I'm multitasking. Science has actually proved that multitasking is not real. You actually stop doing what you're doing to do the other thing.
Yeah, I read about that. So you're actually doing yourself a disservice. You're tricking yourself into thinking that you're doing everything at once, whereas you're better off to just concentrate 100% on one thing, finish that, and move on to the next.
Yeah. As my
Yeah,
dad
that's
used to
interesting.
say, get it done and get it off your plate.
Yeah, and you know, I'm like that. I like that closure. You know, because I get in that habit because I was, you know, like today I was on my computer and I was doing my work, the fiduciary work, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I got to make sure I upload my outline, and then I walked away, and all of a sudden I came back and I completely forgot to do a trade and cost this client $30,000. No, I'm only kidding, but you know, but you're right because yeah,
Is he
because
really?
you're right.
Is he really only kidding?
You never know. You guys aren't with the compliance department, are you?
Yeah, but it's
No,
worth
because
it. Those are some great questions.
yeah, I think so. And you know what? I'm trying to find a way to blend them. I had Steve Trevino tell me, he says, "Look, man," he goes, "I think you're funny, but I think you're missing the boat. I think it's very interesting. That you're a licensed fiduciary managing millions of dollars and making $1 million decisions every day, and then you're running around the country telling dick jokes. You know, I think you should be writing about that kind of stuff. You know." And I'm like, but I hate it. I mean, that's why I started doing comedy because I wanted to get away from that shit. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to
How
find
many
humor
funny
in it. It's
fiduciaries is there?
not many. You know what I'm saying? I did a conference for Farmers Bureau the other day, a corporate event, and I'm like, okay, I got to write some jokes. So the only joke I could remember, and I'll share it with you guys, was there was a time where I would call what's called the CD list. The bank would have these lists of millions of dollars coming due at the bank, and you'd have to call the person, hey, you got a CD coming due. You're thinking about what you may want to do with it, you know. And this lady goes to me, she goes, son, did you graduate Harvard or the Wharton School of Finance? And I go, no. And she goes, well, why would I want to work with you as opposed to somebody who went to Harvard or the Wharton School of Finance? I go, you got a point there, Mrs. So-and-so, but had I graduated from Harvard or the Wharton School of Finance, I sure as hell wouldn't be calling you in fucking Tamarack, Florida now, would I? And that was my opening joke without the F-bomb at the event. So, yeah.
Well, you know, fiduciary starts with the F letter, so I think that it'd been all right.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a douche in there. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. And that's why I mentioned about the podcast. I took a little break from that because I went nuts on social media. I started plugging out these little videos. Ben, the producer, and I were talking about it. YouTube has these things called shorts now, where you can put these little under a minute little videos, and they're getting like 2,500, 3,000, 4,000 views. I can't believe it. And I've gotten about 80 different new subscribers. And on my reels on Instagram at Dougie Dangerous, by the way, putting them out, and I got like a few hundred new followers on Instagram just from putting these little 30-second clips out. And I just focused on that. I just kept busting my ass and doing that. No multitasking. I said, no podcast. I'm just going to put these videos out, you know?
Well, you realize it takes less work to do that to get better results.
I got 10,000 new followers just by telling people I'm going to be on this podcast.
Yeah, there's not even 10,000 people that watch this shit. All right.
Well, I didn't have to do anything. I just ride your coattails.
All right. Well, good. Be sure that you have them come back and follow us. But that could be the thing that's sometimes, you know, discouraging. I like being good at what I do. So sometimes, you know, if I see maybe the podcast isn't getting that much, it isn't taking off the way I want, or, you know, you just kind of start getting a little discouraged about it. You know, I mean, who doesn't get discouraged in comedy at times in this business, right?
Right. Like, well, I've been the same thing. My podcast, Remasculate, I've been doing it for a little over 10 years. And I think right now I might be at a 7-month break. You know, the same thing. Oh, wow. It was like, you know, I've been doing this for as long as I have. And I started back before a lot of them were popular. And you think, why am I busting my ass trying to get this done every week, an hour show? And same thing, guests will cancel at the last minute. And I think, you know, I just took a 30-second clip out of my stand-up from the Looney Bin, and I got 4,000 views.
Yeah.
The same, you know, you just start thinking, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, it could be somewhat discouraging. Now, you posted the other day about maybe doing some radio, getting back into terrestrial radio.
Yeah, Michael Florwack, another comic here in Denver, he had a radio show for years called Lewis and Florwack, and he reached out to me because, you know, I used to do radio for 12 years here in Denver, and he was like, Do you think we could have a market if we got together? I said, why not? Let's give it a shot. So we went in and recorded a bunch of fake shows with a producer, and now he's sent them out to an agent, and we'll see.
Wow. Yeah,
that'd be awesome,
I love radio. I would love radio. I did the same thing with Reverend Bob Levy. Miami was looking for a morning radio show, and we put together these clips, and we didn't get a call back. But you never know what they're looking for. All right, let me ask you, fellas.
I told Wax, because he's been out of the radio biz for like 10 years now too, and I go, things have changed a lot. The attitude of people has changed a lot. What they are going to allow, like, oh, I can't believe you made fun of, a rocking chair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the attitude now. It's like, if you ever found your cat dead in a rocking chair, you'd never make fun of a rocking chair ever again. Because everybody's just looking for something to be offended by today.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, your comedy is not like, neither one of you guys really get into much of that in your comedy. So, I mean, your jokes are pretty much, I don't think I've ever heard anything that was even remotely offensive from any of your jokes, Jeff.
No, I don't do political humor either. I don't want to divide my audience. I want everybody to like my show, not just the smart people.
Yeah.
But if I do any political stuff or any social awareness, it's stuff where it's like I talk about how we shouldn't let politics, come between us and our friends and family. So I'm gonna talk about something that everyone can relate to, and not like talk about my own personal opinions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can skirt around. I can address an issue, but how it affects everybody without so much. Like I talk about how like I have all these Republican friends. I'm not a liberal. I'm like moderate Democrat, maybe a light Republican, but I never criticize my hardcore conservative friends on their political views. Instead, I just go to their homes, drink their beer, eat their steak, swim in their pools, because I'm a Democrat and I don't let politics get in the way of free stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Exactly. Yeah. So see, so that joke like that isn't really taking sides. We kind of making fun of a mindset and finding where we can, because I want everyone to have a good time. At the same time, I don't want to just do fluff in my act. Because, I read the paper, I watch the news, and I have opinions on things. So I try to find a way to talk about things without, about how I feel about things at a certain time, instead of trying to advance like my opinion or, or challenge other people's opinions. And it seems to work, even on cruise ships.
I've told Dougie the same thing that you. I don't do politics in my act. I don't do. I believe that they came to laugh. And so why divide the audience? I've said that to him before, but I'm very vocal in my social media. That's it's kind of like, this is, it's divided. This is that, and that's this, but I will never do it in my stand-up. Even when I was touring with the Deplorables tour, I just did stand-up from a conservative point of view. It was nothing about slamming or making fun of it. It was just like, remember when we could do this? Remember when your kid could do this? That kind of, it was very much an attitude more than just, divisive joke.
Well, I love that character you do with the beanie, the pink beanie.
Oh, liberal
Larry. My homage to your character. Yeah, this is my homage to your character. But what I love about it is, like, there's a lot of like the so-called conservative comedians I like. I watch Gutfield, even though I watch Colbert and watch Seth Meyers. I like Gutfield because I believe that comedy should be even-handed and everybody should have a voice. And if you can't take it, you shouldn't dish it out. And what I love about your character is it's got jokes. You have a point of view, but the thing is, you can't make fun of other people's point of view if there's not a kernel of truth. So you take those little bits of truth and then you exaggerate them, and I think anybody can relate to that. It's just that when people are being, they don't have that humility, or they don't have that humanity, you know, when they're doing political humor and it's not tongue in cheek enough, that's when it can turn people off, you know?
Yeah. I mean, look how many people got turned off to late night TV. A lot of people just can't even watch late night TV anymore for the most part, because the only real conservative voice you have is Gutfeld, and it's kind of, I just think it's amazing that he's winning the ratings against most of these other guys, you know, with these network channels.
I think even though it's Fox News, I think that he is more tongue in cheek and is more playful with their humor, like targeting the left than the liberal shows. You know, when I watch Gutfeld,
I agree.
Yeah, I think Gutfeld is more like playful.
I have been on and around Fox News a lot over the past, 6 years, and Gutfeld sometimes does jokes that even I'll go, ooh, they're going to let you get away with that one, and it's good that way, because he is walking an edge that, you know, most conservatives like. I didn't find that funny.
Wow. Yeah, it's funny on the road. I'm hearing even comics coming up with Biden jokes, which is, you know, I didn't think I was ever going to hear them, but they're telling, and people are laughing. It's like, you know, I mean, but how could you not? I mean, you know, you make fun of Trump's hair, it's funny. You know, you make fun of his, you know, I mean, that's just funny because it's there, you know, and you have to laugh.
You can't make fun of somebody sniffing children.
I have notebooks filled with Biden jokes, but they're all in my garage.
Right next to
your Corvette.
I
was going to ask you fellas,
it's Barbie Corvette, but it's still a Corvette.
Nevertheless, you know, I was going to ask you guys about that. If any of you guys had classified documents in your dwellings there that we need to worry about, wouldn't you agree with? Go ahead.
Just
Jeff.
my certificate for the Taylor Swift fan club and my signed 8x10.
Like I was going through the magazine rack next to the toilet looking for something to read, and I found one. It was odd. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking for my old insurance policy, and I found nuclear codes that I'd gotten somehow. You know, but I think what is interesting about it is, I think if anything, what's happened with that recent story, and you know, at Pence, is that it really is much ado about nothing. You know, it's like it's almost every politician seemed to have had this shit, you know, one way or the other, you know, and it's just like, let's kind of figure this shit out.
I think they thought they were going to get Trump on it. I think they thought this is something we can use, but they didn't realize everybody does it.
Yes, as I wrote on Facebook, I said I think I'm beginning to believe that classified documents are the executive branch equivalent of extra ketchup packets in a junk drawer.
Exactly. Who doesn't take that shit home?
All high-level government officials have them lying around someplace.
Well, so I forgot who it was, but somebody the other night was talking about there's like close to 1 billion documents that are classified, and that they were saying that they classify way too much stuff in Washington now, because everything's secretive, and it's not as top secret as classified as it should be. You know, it'd be like, yeah, what brand of toothpaste does the president use? Nobody needs to know that. Nobody needs to know that.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, most Americans should just be happy that they are brushing their teeth. You know, speaking of humor,
Mike Pence, they said they had classified documents. It turns out it was just the classifieds. He was looking for a job, so he got that story wrong.
And he had male stripper checked off. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, and part of let me ask you, I mentioned this, but I don't know if you guys had heard, but speaking of controversial, but Bill Cosby's going to hit the road this year. And, wow. You know, I don't know if you knew that, but
I'm glad
he's going to go on tour.
Well, I'm glad he'll be performing again. Now he can go back to putting people to sleep the old-fashioned way.
Oh, you did!
Oh my God, I can't believe he said that about Cosby.
Oh, he said it about the OG.
Now, my question is: are people going to go? Are people are you know? Are they, and if they do go, are they going to really let him go unhindered? Like they're like people going to start screaming shit out at him and stuff? You think? I mean, is it going to be a mess? And what's
I
the
don't think
over
it will
under?
be, because I think his audience is going to be older anyway and more polite. It's not going to be. He's not having the Gen Zers coming to his show going, dude, the story about Noah.
Yeah, I don't think the social warrior is going to be able to afford the ticket.
That might be a good way to keep him out, right? $200, $250 a ticket, if not more. I just think it's interesting.
Drink coupon.
Yeah, you get a free Cosbypolitan with every ticket. Bring your favorite
He's
girl.
the only performer that if you take the backstage experience, he pays you.
Can I get you something to drink? No, thank you, sir.
Yeah. All the drinks served at his comedy show will have a cover on it. It's just amazing. It's like, I asked this on my show a few shows back. Like, would you see a Will Smith movie again? Like, I won't ever pay to see a Will Smith movie ever again. Yeah.
No, I won't pay.
That's just something I felt, mind you, I wouldn't pay for a movie to see The Rock again either. But
I've lost all attraction to movies. I was addicted to movies. I seriously would go 2 or 3 times a week before COVID. And now I don't see any need to pay for something. I'm not entertained at the movies anymore. There hasn't been a good one. When I watch ads for it, I go, I don't need to see this. It's like something inside me broke.
I love it when they show some piece of crap movie and they go, America's #1 movie. Yeah, well, Denny's is America's #1 diet.
Exactly. Yeah, the bar's not that high.
Yeah, if you're used to eating Velveeta, you think that's the only cheese.
Now, the last movie I paid to see is I went to see the Avatar movie because it was in 3D and I wanted the whole experience. That truly was amazing. Right. I mean, just from a technical point of view.
Yeah, but how was
the original one or the last one?
The new one. I thought it was amazing, at least visually.
Yeah, but the story wise.
Yeah, the story wise was great. I think they put this was more of a labor of love, I think, than the first one. The first one was a great movie, but it was like he sat with these characters for the past 15 years or so. And so I think as far as, typical, science fiction mythology type of, talking about family and honor and community, all those themes that are always woven into science fiction movies. It did a great job, and the characters, the way that they filmed it with the those motion sensors, those characters look so human. So I thought they did a great job with it. But I'm not going to go see an Adam Sandler movie in a movie theater. All that stuff I watch on Netflix. But something like that's a spectacle where you want to see it on the big screen, I'll go see it.
Yeah, like I can't wait to go see 80 for Brady.
I'm taking my mom to see that. I can hardly wait to see Jane Fonda's hair in IMAX.
Oh my God! I mentioned this. I mentioned this once before, but Jane Fonda was on Howard Stern a year ago, probably about a year ago. And if you listen to if you can still get it, if you can go download it, she actually slips and admits that she knew the pandemic was coming. There's folks that, she goes, well, you knew it was going to happen and stuff, but we didn't, but it kind of, and, of course, Howard didn't key in on it. And I remember trying to get back and download it again, but she comes out and said, we knew it was coming and stuff like that. She's an Illuminati pawn. I mean, let's face it. Ted Turner, they own millions of acres in Montana, which is basically the safe land in this country. Which is one of the stories we're going to talk about today. When the asteroid hits, you want to be in a certain part of the geography. Speaking of controversy, I don't know if you guys saw it. We got to talk about it. The Tyre Nichols police beating. You know, we can't go a year or some time without some major, you know, faux pas, major fucking blemish on the police department. Which this time was a little different because it wasn't a white man or white men beating up a black man. It was a bunch of black men beating up a black guy. And for somehow they're still calling it racist, you know, for this to occur. When, you know, to me, this has nothing to do with training. This has to do with oversight. This is not about training anymore with this particular case. This is about oversight of police officers getting a little too powerful, a little too big in their britches.
I have been thinking about this, how everything has to be a major problem. It has to be a systemic problem. It has to be part of the whole. And to me, we've removed personal responsibility out of everything. And so we can't just blame the five guys. We can't just go, those are five fucked up police. We have to go, so this is the problem with the entire police. You know what I mean? The attitude of people. You can't just say, look, the guy is bad.
Yeah.
Does that make
Well,
sense
I was about
to
the
you?
post.
Because that's what I.
Yeah.
Because everybody
absolutely.
wants to blame the bigger. It's a bigger problem. No, it's not. Yeah. It's five bad cops.
Well, I was about to post something on social media. I was about to post something. Hold on one second. I was going to say, I was going to post something real quick about that in the sense that, all right, tell me what's worse, bad policing or crime? You know what I mean? There's obviously crime is a bigger problem than bad policing. So you just can't get rid of police. We got to get rid of crime. And then you don't have to worry about police. That would be the normal way of going, right? But I was worried if I posted that, somebody say, you're just defending them fucking guys. You know, again, every mob mentality. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. But you know, to go back to what you're saying about the bigger problem of crime, because my grandfather was a police officer and been around it, is that a lot of times these guys, and this is not going to go, oh my God, he's defending them again. This is the police in general, is that they haven't been allowed to do their job for so long. A lot of them aren't bad. They're just really frustrated.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about those five. I'm talking about in general. A lot of cops are quitting because they can't do their job. That increases more crime. Instead of just being able to keep crime down, you know, don't turn them loose.
Yeah.
And the thing I'm worried about is when you see, you know, police officers, professionals who are highly trained and experienced, they make mistakes, you know, which is only human. What's going to happen if all the good guys are like, you know, are dissuaded from staying on the force or, you know, or go someplace else? How are we going to see, if we see how like guys that are suited for the job, how they can make mistakes on a job? What's going to happen when you get people who aren't suited for the job because they're the only ones who are going to take it? You know, because it takes. They said. Well, also too, I try to always remember that context is key, and you don't know what it's like unless you're in somebody's shoes. And first of all, when you're a police officer, you are putting your life on the line every day. And it takes a certain type of person to be able to face that danger and also to put with all the difficult aspects of doing that job. And if you have the strength, the courage, and the personality where you can walk into that every day, you also have the personality that you can overreact. You can behave in a way, because guys like this are supercharged when they go into, you know, these situations. And, you know, sometimes when you have somebody who's brave enough to do a very difficult job, you're also going to have somebody who might be rash or impulsive, or maybe over emotional, maybe in a time of crisis. So it's about finding a balance. You know, and also too, you don't know how you're going to react when you're in face a situation like that.
Yeah,
you know,
somebody should tell Joe Biden that when he says,
"Get rid of," is the attitude that they're after me. Like, you know, I was telling this somebody the other day. I was helping my son move a while back, and I had my truck loaded up with a bunch of stuff, and I got pulled over because there'd been a bunch of robberies in the neighborhood, and I got pulled over, checked out, when, you know, did everything right. Why did I get stopped? Because there was stuff going on. But I could have been like, you stopped me because I got long hair. You probably thought I had dope in my car. You know what I mean?
Well, they did check you. They did do a full body cavity search.
But I'm saying that's not shouldn't be the first thing out of your head. It's
right.
Like,
out of curiosity, where did you hide the dope that they didn't find it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm in Colorado. It's legal.
Okay. Oh, okay. There you go.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. This political hack, I think his name is Robert Reich. I always drill him on his Twitter post, but he said, because there's this thing about immunity to police officers about not being sued, and he says they should get rid of that. I'm like, oh yeah, it's such a stupid fucking thing, because like Jeff mentioned, if you take that immunity away, then good cops are going to go, fuck this. If people, and I can get sued over any little fucking thing, I'm not going to risk that, I'm not going to take a chance on my character.
You could accidentally try to put a handcuffs on somebody, you accidentally break a finger. I don't mean that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You weren't overdoing it.
$200,000.
Ow, sorry.
Yeah, it is a very concerning topic in that, because there are you're saying the recruitment of police officers, like in the military, recruitment's off. We got soft people in this world.
Let me ask you, does this make any sense to anybody with any common sense that you would allow people to steal anything under $1,000 and it's okay?
It's ridiculous.
You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. And we can agree from all angles. If you break the law, you should go to jail. There should be none of this. Well, it was under $1,000, so steal a rack of clothes.
Yeah.
Well, one of the functions of laws are supposed to help what I'm looking for to reinforce social values. And one of the social values that we all agree upon is that you don't take something that doesn't belong to you. And when you create a law like this, you're putting an end to reinforcing that social value, and a whole new generation of people are going to think, well, it's okay because it's a certain amount. And then that mindset is just going to make its way into other aspects of society. Yeah,
because like you just said, Jeff,
it's a gateway drug.
Right.
Yeah.
And like Jeff said, that's what happens.
Hey, if I can get away with this, I can get away with that. If I got away with that,
that's what causes such behavior is justification. I remember a few years ago, this one kid got shot. It was in Florida, the news, young black kid got shot. The homeowner had a gun. The guy was breaking into the house and the kid got shot. And his sister said all he wanted was he needed money so he could buy Nikes. So you can justify the act any way you want. That's the thing. It's easier for humanity to say, oh, I did it for this reason. I beat the person because of this, or I stole the, and there's enough of that it exists without it being further being, exploited by the laws, like you just mentioned about, if it's under $1,000, it's okay. Speaking of money, by the way, let me ask you guys. We lost. Let me see. There we go. You're back.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Speaking of money, in the recent months or so, Elon Musk lost over $202 billion out of his wealth. Let me ask you both. What's the biggest amount of wealth or value you've ever lost, Jeff?
This last December and January, I've lost thousands and thousands of dollars worth of work because I was hospitalized twice. So I lost all my work for December and January, which would have been two of my best December and Januaries ever. So, over 20 grand worth of work, but at least I'm in a situation where I've got good health insurance, and I could take the hit without being ruined, because I've saved my money and I've always had good health insurance and stuff. So, but yeah, this has been rough the past couple of months. I had diverticulitis in December. I survived a worldwide pandemic without so much as a sniffle, only to be taken out by a pumpkin seed.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks ago I was hospitalized with appendicitis, and then I'm going to lose more work next week when I get my hysterectomy. So I hope I'm out of the woods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's amazing. How about you,
yeah.
Steve?
There are going to be people mad that I call it a hysterectomy, that I didn't say hysterectomy.
Exactly. How dare you? How dare you?
Well, other than losing a ton of money for 2 years under the pandemic, I mean that was 2 years big time loss.
Yeah.
As a self-employed entertainer, if you can't do anything, that was 2 years of living off my savings, which would have been my retirement. So that was a big giant hit. But the one you're talking about, losing money. Recently, I was cleaning out my office that I haven't done in years. I set it up, and I was moving a printer that's been sitting there probably 12 years. And I found a uncashed check from a comedy club for $1,700. Yeah, yeah. And see, and it was dated back when I was doing radio. So it was one of those checks. It was just extra money that I'd made on the weekend. And in my head, I wasn't like, "Where's that check? I've got to pay the house note." You know.
Yeah, right.
But
Well,
I
it's too
found
late,
it.
right?
I
You can't.
contacted the club owner, and he was like, "Ha ha ha! That's too bad, ain't it?"
Shit.
It was only like it's like 10 years ago. The check was dated like 10 years.
Yeah, they
Wow.
won't cash it. Oh, it's interesting though. Yeah, call them up. I was just going to ask you if the club was still open, and if it was open, they should have made it good. They should have said, "Look, you
No,
never
that's what I
collected
thought
it.
too.
Okay."
But I won't say his name because we're still friends, sorta.
Oh, for now.
I would have just freaked out. I mean, if I find like a $3 off CVS coupon that's expired, I freak out.
Well,
I can't imagine
that happens to
finding
me
a
a
check
lot.
for $1,700.
Oh my God! Well, that happens
Talking
sometimes.
about
Go ahead.
coupons. I we get these things in the mail for like two burgers from Carl's Jr. for $3, and I save those things and I never use them. But I constantly I'll go, oh yeah, I want to try that new spicy chicken down there, 2 for $6, and I never do it.
Yeah. The important thing with that is placement. Like I love Arby's, so they would have get 5 Arby's sandwiches for $5, and I'm like, okay, well I can't just put the coupon in my wallet or my pocket because I wash my pants, right? And then okay, I'm going to put it in my car because that's when I usually will get Arby's if I'm in my car. So I'll put it like in the ashtray or in the center console thing. And then, like you
Yeah.
said, next thing you know, you're looking for something in your center console. They got 14 fucking Arby's coupons in there. I'm like, God dang it, I never went to Arby's.
They expired back in October.
It's like I have $90 worth of change in my change drawer in the car, but every time I go into a convenience store and buy something that's like, $7.23, I never remember to take my change with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And now your car is getting worse gas mileage because all the weight of the fucking
Yeah.
change.
Well, the gas station by my house, they're so aware of like with your situation, with like you just said, they actually have a jar now that's just full of change, and you just take
Yeah.
out what you need. It's been really like, because I never had like $7.22. I'm like, don't have it. Don't worry, we got it.
Yeah.
It's just a jar
I like
that they
that.
started keeping by the cash register.
I like that because I've taken and I've given. You know what I mean? I've gotten change 45 cents. I'll just put it in that little thing, like a little dish they have right there. Here, just use it.
Yeah.
Put it there. So you can tell that's what they do. And then because I was always like, oh, I'm not going to put my change, inflation and shit. And then a couple times, like, oh, it's 7, like you just said. I'm like, oh, take 30 cents from here. I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna partake in this from now on. I'm gonna be a giver, not just a taker.
Yeah.
That's true.
And then
right.
If you take it to Coinstar, Coinstar, they try to charge you like commission, like, that's higher than like, the comedy zones in the 80s. It's like, it's like, like you can either get all your money in Starbucks gift cards that aren't accepted at any Starbucks, or you can pay like a 50% commission and get cash.
Well, I always check the coins. I always check the Coinstar coin return because a lot of people don't check. You'll find like bent dimes and Canadian money and pieces of jewelry. Seriously, every time you walk past a Coinstar, look down in there. There's going to be something that fell out.
Yeah, and by the way, we're talking to a man who has a metal detector, and that goes out and hunts shit. You wouldn't need a metal detector if you cashed those checks on time. And by the way, that happens more often. No wonder he's fucking bought a metal detector. He's fucking leaving checks in his pillowcases and shit. This pillow isn't stuffy enough. I need some more paper. I do that. I do that all the time because now with the new banking system, I can deposit a check on my phone. So I'll deposit the check and I'll put it in my briefcase or something, because in case it doesn't go through. And then like 2 weeks later, I'll go, oh, fuck, did I cash this check? I can't remember. I have to go on my computer and check and see if I did cash it or not, So I can see that happening.
A lot of checks now, if you look at the back, have a little square that says you've mobile deposit. You can check it. A lot of checks have that now.
Oh, yeah? Oh, okay. I think it's so you can check it off that you did it while you save it. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Steve, for helping the fiduciary with a money matter.
Glad to help.
Yeah. I'm always calling you for financial advice, Dougie. I need to be asking the man who leaves checks lying around for 10 years. That's the guy I need to talk to.
Yeah. He's got so much money, he leaves it around.
Info, my purchase doesn't go through. He'll just say put this much amount on it. If it hits that, then it'll sell or buy. And mine just sits there for weeks at a time.
Limit orders. Yeah, I feel bad. The last bit of a stock advice I gave him didn't go so well. So, I'm a little bad about that. Fubo. I think I told him to buy Fubo.
You did.
I did tell you to buy Fubo. I think we bought it around 18 or something. It's at $2.
Yeah.
Well, don't Fubo so bad.
Are you talking about the urban activewear, Fubo? What are you talking about?
No, it's Fubo. Fubo is like Roku. Is like a like one of those streaming channels and stuff that you can. Yeah.
But it was supposed to be more sports oriented.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and they actually did well. We when we did buy, we bought around 15 or something, went up to the 40s and stuff. And we sold. They went back down to 15, 14. Okay, let's go ahead another run, and it just kind of fell apart. But nevertheless, hey, speaking of questions, if you could travel through time, would you go back into the past or would you go into the future, Jeff?
I would go into the future and then buy a time machine, then go back into the past and into the future so I wouldn't have to answer your question.
Brilliant.
There you go.
Brilliant.
That's like the joke. If you have 3 wishes, what would you wish for? I'd wish for 13 more wishes.
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah, like I watch these time machine movies. Like I just got a root canal the other day. And getting a root canal takes squashes any dreams I had of going back in the past and being a cowboy or a pirate.
Yes.
I don't want to go back any further in time before Novocaine was invented.
That's a good point. Toilet paper while we're at it.
I was just watching an episode of Rawhide the other day, and they went into the dentist in the saloon to get a tooth pulled. And I thought, no, I've had it pulled under sedation, and it hurt worse than you're acting right there.
Yeah.
That guy should have been like,
Did you guys ever watch the Ben Stiller show that was like on back in the 90s? They had one of the funniest sketches ever. It was See Average Time Traveler. And it was a bunch of these high school kids that were bad in history. They discovered a time machine like in somebody's basement or in the school or something. So they traveled back in a time like the 1700s. And so like when the founding fathers found out that they were from like the 1990s, they were asking them all these questions to help them win the Revolutionary War. And none of the kids knew any of the answers. So they couldn't help them project the future 5 years ago. I don't know. Are you the guy with the wooden teeth, or is that the other guy?
Exactly. Who's sleeping with
like
the whore in
see
France?
average time traveler. It was great.
Well, you're talking about the C average. When you watch these videos like Steven Crowder does them, and some of the other people, these man on the streets, where they ask the random
those
question.
are brilliant.
How did they get out of school this stupid? I don't understand it. I mean, how do you? I don't understand the level of stupidity. I was not a great student. I have higher capabilities than my grades. I was lazy, but I'm smart enough to know who presidents are, state capitals, countries. I can point them on. How do people make it through life when you go? I don't know. I don't know who the president is. I don't know.
Those are always amazing. I always thought like that when I went. I always thought that when I went to college. Like I remember in college, you'd meet people in college, like, how the fuck did this person get into college? And then my buddy reminded me, goes, hey, don't you remember so and so took my SATs for me? I go, oh, that's right, you guys scammed the system. But those man on the street things, or person on the street things, they say, it's very revealing of the ignorance. You know what I mean? That's out there. And I mean, hell, like I said, there's ignorance everywhere. We talk about the shooting thing. President Biden mentioned not too long ago, why is it cops that always shoot to kill? Why don't they shoot in the leg or something? And I'm just thinking like, oh my God, like this is the president of the United States making a comment that's only gonna rile up the hoople heads. And like Jeff, you said, like, no one ever been in. If you've never been in that situation, I have a gun, I carry a gun, and I'm taught when I pull the gun, it's to use it for deadly force. It's not the only reason I'm going to pull the gun out is because a life is being threatened, and you know what I mean. So I'm going to pull out and shoot him in the leg. It's always that the hoople heads that'll say something like that, like, oh, why did they shoot him in the leg, or why didn't they do that? And it's
when you take a concealed carry course, they teach you to empty your weapon until the target's on the ground.
Yeah.
I have my concealed carry.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on patrols with cops, and I've seen that happen, where the person was shot and they still came at him and stabbed the person. You never know. Someone's high on angel dust. You could put 6 bullets in the guy's chest, and they could still come at you, That's the thing. When the minute you draw the weapon, you're drawing it because your life is threatened, and you're not gonna sit there and this isn't Star Trek. Oh, I'm gonna set for stun. I'm gonna set for fucking stun.
That's why I thought that Anthony from Opening Anthony, I always thought he got a raw deal because they showed such constraint. To be carrying a weapon and to be in a situation where someone is laying hands on you and you're in a violent situation, but still knowing that it hasn't escalated to the point. I'm always fascinated by people who have been in like fights, or they've been mugged or been robbed, and they decided that even though they're going to get their butt kicked, they didn't need to draw their weapon. Because I think people, the more trained you are and the more comfortable you are with a weapon and more you've been around, guns your entire life, especially if you have training, that it's not, you only pull it out when you absolutely necessarily need it. And so that's why it's not like, I think I'm going to shoot him in the leg to slow this guy down. That would never cross somebody's mind who's a trained weapons expert.
No, you have to take out the threat. That's what it's for. You take out, you remove the threat. Well, it's great to hear you making sense like that, Jeff. Because another comic friend of mine, liberals, we can get along. But he was talking about gun control and how we need more gun laws, and I'm like, we got a lot of laws. We need to enforce laws. We need to.
Right.
We were going through this whole thing like, criminals don't follow the laws. The laws are not for them. And he goes, well, not everybody should be carrying a gun. And I go, I have one on me right now. He goes, you do not. And I pulled my jacket back and I've got my gun on. And he goes, well, that's different. You're trained. And I go, yeah, I took the training class. That's a thing we should be doing. But you removed that from the schools. Schools used to have shooting classes.
Right.
So there's this whole thing, it's like people want to have these feel good attitudes when really the truth is what matters.
Yeah.
And that story in the news recently where the 6-year-old brought the gun in. That never would have happened if one person had listened to the teachers. The moment somebody said, "Hey, we think this child has a gun," that should have been taken care of. But that was like they kept ignoring it, and now all these people the principals being reassigned to another district where they can make another boneheaded decision like that. But so many times people there's a time where a decision can be made to prevent a tragedy, and people just don't have the training to make the right decision. And
a lot of those the same thing. The people talk about the mass shootings. Almost every one of those has had the red flag before the shooting. Almost every one of them. They'll go, he was on our radar, or he had already been arrested for this, or we knew his mom had reported him as having trouble. But no one's ever stepped up. You know what I mean? Everybody's afraid to we can't arrest them. What are we going to say? Just take them out.
It is a bit of a challenge. It is a bit of a challenge. Like we said, people are saying we need more laws, but at the same time, no, we have to be able to enforce the laws without being accused of being discriminatory with those laws, or lack of empathy, and all this shit when it comes to somebody who breaks the law. And you can't have both. You can't have, I said this to somebody. I go, look, you have all this bullying when the Parkland shooting happened. I go, listen, this is not about guns. This is about humanity and the lack of it. You got these kids that are just fucking ruthless. For the most part, I'm not surprised that I see shootings in schools, because you watch the way the kids are in schools, and most of them are fucking pricks. Most of these kids are just evil fucking people. And then of course the news gets it and like, oh, these poor kids got shot. But meanwhile, if you had a recorder on some of these kids during the day, oh, that fat cunt, these kids are just fucking ruthless, and they wonder why people are getting shot. And then, at the after effect is like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. Well, people don't respect people anymore. People don't give a shit about listening to people anymore.
They don't respect life. They don't respect the life itself,
Yeah.
One of the things that everybody knows about the Columbine shooting in Colorado, that was one of the big ones, Columbine. But no one talks about the fact that those kids had pipe bombs. Those two guys had made pipe bombs. And everybody went after guns, but nobody was going, outlaw PVC. You can't make pipe bombs.
Right.
Because guns are the easy thing. When it really was the kids. Their attitude was they wanted to kill people. Whether it was a gun or with a pipe bomb.
Yeah. It's, and that's what I said about policing earlier. I go, we want to focus on bad police, but we're going to completely ignore the horrible crime. There's a lot more bad crime going on than there is bad cops. And, that's where we need to focus our attention. And like you and Jeff was saying too, police officers, I know a lot of police officers, and, you can become emotionally tarnished dealing with the scumbags every day and shit. You can eventually become, tainted in your philosophies and stuff. Oh, that cop was racist. Well, sometimes you got to ask, why is that person like that? What have they gone through in the last 2-3 years, 5 years, and 6 years? It may not be like I said, it may not be justifiable, but you got to understand that, that's why I'm saying oversight sometimes, not just training. It's just oversight. Most cops know how to be fucking trained. They know what they're doing. But after how often are you being trained? How often are you being tested psychologically, to handle shit like that? It's like you got to be able to do it. All right, we're going to move on. We had some other things here about aliens and shit, but screw that. Let's get to Did You Hear? We got some great stories I want to get to before we go. And then, of course, word association, I'll cut them down. But, again, talk about lack of this. But this to me was like the epitome of just ridiculousness. But illegal immigrants in New York City refused to leave taxpayer-funded hotel for the migrant center. Like, oh, that's not good enough for me. I mean, this is kind of like when this is like in the LGBTQ fight for equality and stuff, which I respect, and I want everybody to be treated equally. They started losing it when they started fucking with kids and the sexuality of kids. This is what's kind of now separating, these drag shows and stuff. This is what's causing the average person to go, wait a minute, I'm no longer part of your cause because you're going a little far. This is where the immigration got, as I said, has jumped the shark. Now you have people that have come into this country illegally, did not respect the laws of our country, and now they're saying, "Oh, you got to put me in a fucking 5-star hotel. I'm not going to go to some fucking shelter." I mean, this is the.
You know how you get those people out of there? I'll tell you how you get those immigrants out of that hotel. You take every naturalized Indian American hotel owner that's owned any Super 8 that I've stayed in over the years, and you send them to New York. I guarantee you those immigrants won't stay a second past 11 a.m.
No late checkout here, fucker.
So you stayed at the Curry Cottage too.
Uh-huh.
That's so fucking true. Oh my God. I won't have time for it now, but I remind me to tell you guys how I got out of a $250 smoking in the hotel room. Indian guy was gonna beat the shit out of me. He's like, "I'm gonna kick you out. I'm gonna force you out of that hotel." And then when I said he gave me the $250 fine, I went to the front desk. I go, "Well, I wonder how Best Western's going to feel when I show him the recording of you harming me, threatening me with physical harm, throwing me out of a hotel, and I got a bad neck and a bad back." But unbelievable, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. This is where we're at.
Here's what it does. What made me think about it when I saw that story is because all of a sudden I don't feel bad for him anymore, and maybe, just maybe, they're lying about where they're coming from and their journey. Maybe their journey wasn't as across four countries, because if I walked across Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, I might go, "Can I sleep in that tent? Because my life has been hell for the past year."
Yeah. Agreed.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I think this is the kind of, I think what you're going to see is more of that. That's been again the enabling of and the sorrow feeling for shit. But every once in a while, look, man, enough is enough. I feel bad for myself, my family, those who have been dealt the bad hand, But this kind of, like, you're exactly right. Speaking of bad,
I think we could all agree that our empathy level, we've all had empathy. We all feel bad for somebody. I was raised in the church. You're supposed to help other people. But when all of a sudden you realize we're not helping anybody with anything. We're all being taken advantage of. We're all getting our tax money taken from us and wasted. We're seeing all this stuff. Our level of tolerance is up I'm right at that fuck you level. I don't give a shit about hardly anything or anybody anymore.
Yeah. Exactly. It's almost like when you give somebody, a homeless person, money, and then you see them go take the money and they buy drugs or a beer or a fucking bottle of wine. You're like, what am I doing? I'm just prolonging. What am I doing?
Well, that happened to me not long ago in Chicago. There was a homeless guy out on the street begging for food, and I had come out of the KFC and bought a 2-piece and gave it to him. He threw it in the trash and said, "I need money for a drink." Well, just have that honesty on your side, or at least take the thing and say thank you. Eat it. But it makes you go, "I'm not doing this again for anybody."
Yeah. It's listen, the homeless thing's tragic. And I've still go to the thing, like, we got 2.5 million homeless children on our streets. I'd rather worry about them than I would immigrant coming in this country at this point. All right. I'm going to go into a whole different aspect of concern, but one of these days you're going to turn on the news. Just one of these days you're going to turn on the news and you're going to say, "Hey, forget about all the crime, the politics, but an asteroid's about to hit us." Asteroid 2023 space rock passes closer than some satellites this past week. I mean, look at that. I mean, look how close we are to a major fucking problem. A real problem.
Where's Bruce Willis when we need him?
Yeah. If that asteroid attack comes with a power ballad from Aerosmith, I say let it hit the earth.
And I don't want to miss a thing.
Perfect. Speaking of not missing a theme, who farted? Fart seems to erupt on The View. That's Steve's favorite show, The View. And and the question is, who dealt it? And you be the judge. Ben, run the video here. Who farted?
Wednesday's The View show had viewers in stitches after a loud fart noise was heard live on air. The farting accompanied a puddle of water in the middle of the room, which added to the chaos.
But is it true that Trump had nuclear secrets? It's been reported, but we don't know the specifics. But just real quick, I was...
Oops, who did it? Look at Joy. Look at Joy looking.
That didn't sound like a fart to me.
I thought it was the chair moving.
A leather chair.
Yeah, that didn't sound like that.
Yeah.
Then again, I've never heard Pretty Women fart. So.
Yeah, I know. I've smelt them, but I've never heard them. I've had it. That was a deal breaker. I was dating this girl one time, and she farted on the airplane, and everybody kept looking at me, thinking it was fucking me, because she was just a little petite girl. And we got back home. I went back and never called her again. She called, what happened? I'm like, I never told her, but
it was that ghost that came out of your ass. That's why I ghosted you.
The ghost. And dude, it was rancid. It was the worst smell in the world. So I think it was Whoopi. She farted on stage before. And, Whoopi's another one who just came out. The over-under, what is the over-under on Whoopi apologizing this year? She apologized for the Holocaust was racist. She apologized 3 or 4 times last year. Now she comes out and says, this year she goes, what's it going to take? White people to get the shit beat out of them by cops before people care? And somebody needs to tell Whoopi that white people get the shit beat out of them by cops all the time. They just don't fucking put it on news. It's just not newsworthy. I mean, it fucking happens every fucking day, Whoopi. White people getting the shit kicked out of them. Trust me. And no one gives a care.
Whoopi and Joy Reid go at it. That'd be the cage match that I would like to see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. This is a touching story. Caught on camera, a moment Florida cops arrest a woman who allegedly shot her husband of 50 years in the hospital bed because he was terminally ill. Fair, not fair? What do you think?
They were married 50 years. Give it a couple more days, he would have shot himself.
Exactly. I'm surprised he lasted that long.
He knew he was dying, and it was his last chance to get her. So he said, "Hey, shoot me," knowing that she would go to death row. So this was all his doing.
Yeah. It's like, my thing is how they were both like in their 80s, been married 50 years. How do you make it through 70, 80 years of life and through that many years of marriage with like such horrible problem solving skills? Like that's the go-to, shoot me here in the hospital in front of everyone. Because like there's not like a holistic doctor with some like magic mushrooms that'll like, put out in a couple of days, or you can't go to a state where there's a Dr. Kevorkian working, on, or something like that. Or get like one of those groups that will help you die with dignity, those right to, like, hey, honey, why don't you go back in the truck and get that hog leg and just finish me off. And then you be at the Cracker Barrel before you know it. I mean, I don't understand like that they think that's a way to solve the problem.
Well, he might have been saying, I wish somebody would kill me for 50 years.
He's like, she shot me 49 years too fucking late. That's great.
But in all fairness to the woman, I think that the trauma or the tragedy of there's got to be some kind of psychological component that she went over the edge watching him go through all this.
Oh yeah.
That at the end that she just kind of snapped too, because no one thinking clearly, and people don't, when they're grieving, don't think clearly. But I think there's something going on there that where she snapped herself that she would do it.
Yeah, but can't you see? I mean, my parents were married just short of 70 years. I can imagine. Can you imagine caring about somebody that much that you didn't want to see them hurt? I mean, if you just saw them hurting and in pain, and that you would love somebody so much, you're like, I don't care what happens to me. I'm doing this for you.
Right, and then in that moment, I mean, somebody, she wasn't thinking logically, like, hey, I'm doing this with a gun when there's other ways we could do this, that she wasn't thinking.
No.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, now she's in jail.
Now, here's a situation where I'm glad that that it looked like the officers that intervened took some time to handle this situation. You know, like they didn't, you know, they somebody must have told them the context of what happened. And so it looked like they went out of their way to talk the woman out of, even though they had, in the end, they had to use like a stun grenade, you know. But
well, she's only alive because she's white.
Yeah, that's it. It's not that she's 98 fucking thousand years old. It's that she's a white woman. And that's probably what happened. Otherwise, they should have just, the cops just said, you know what, we got to prove that we're not racist. Let's just beat the shit out of this lady. Let's Rodney King this lady. And just pull her through the hospital and drag her around and hang her from a tree. All right. So speaking of unnecessary,
see what we have to put up with, Jeff?
This is a great story. A&W announces polarizing bear mascot will now wear pants. Yep, there he is. Well, look at him.
Well, that was a troll, though, right? That was somebody believing a post that wasn't real.
Oh, was it? Okay, well.
Yeah, A&W really didn't release that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's move on to the next story then. Thank you for seeing through that shit. Houston woman who allegedly
read what you sent me. You didn't read it before you sent it to me.
Well, I read it, but I did remember I read that part of it. But I thought it was because they showed another picture with him with pants on. You know what I mean? Like, and then of course the M&M people, they took the high heel shoes off the green M&M.
Right. So that was a response to that. This was like a comedian or somebody that was like trolling. It was a fake news. It was a fake press release making fun of that whole M&M situation.
Gotcha. Now let's be honest about M&M. This whole thing is, M&M went woke. They went woke, and now they've decided that they need to back off a little bit. So they're going to hire a person of color to take care of the promotion. But let's be honest about it all. It's just a candy-coated piece of chocolate. I don't care if I get the generic from the Dollar Tree. It tastes exactly the same as M&M. I don't understand why people even give a shit about M&M.
And I never understood why M&Ms felt that they need to sexualize their characters or personify their characters to the extent that they did. I mean, candy sells itself.
Right.
I mean, I'd even go back to my car and get a handful of change for peanut M&Ms.
What's going to happen when Reese's starts to remove their pieces, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, when they started talking about M&Ms, I said, look, you had me at M, okay? I was ready to go just with the M. I didn't need the M&M. I just got the M. I'm good. Our last story for Did You Hear? Houston women who allegedly contracted STDs from a janitor file a lawsuit. Seems this guy had too much time in his hands, and I guess he peed in their liquids and stuff, and causing all these women that could you imagine the husbands of these women? You've been fucking around. It wasn't me. It was the janitor who peed in my fucking drink. A lot of questioning there for husbands have to worry about.
Well, I saw that story, and he was actually like putting his wingding in their drinking bottles and stuff too. So it wasn't just in the water; he was making full contact.
He was making his dick as a twirler, huh? As a stir. I mean, that to me. See, if anybody's going to be shot, that guy. You know what I mean? Because you think about the work that goes into this. That's the guy at work that should get shot. That's poetic justice, right? Guy comes in to shoot up a store and he ends up shooting the guy that just gave all the chicks STDs. That's poetic justice.
Well, that's where I didn't get it from the toilet seat. I got it from the guy that cleans the toilet seat.
That's like when I blamed when I was cheating on my ex-girlfriend one time. She's like, what are all these long black hairs doing? I said, oh, the guy who comes and exterminates the apartment's got long hair. It's not the girl I'm fucking. Any rate. All right. Let's associate, fellas. We'll wrap up the show with this. We got a few things. If you ever remember the game, the word association game, which is I say big, you say tall or whatever. So I'm gonna give you guys one each. And then A quick thought, a feeling, whatever, could be a word. And let's start with Jeff. Jeff, the word popularity.
Popularity. If I had it in high school, I never would have became a comedian.
There you go. Steve, owning up.
Owning up. Oh, wow. That's not a word. That's a phrase.
Well, you could.
Owning up. Well, I guess I would have to, I don't know. I've never been stumped in my life. How did this happen?
I can't believe you didn't say,
I've never been at a loss for words in my life. And I'm like, owning up. Well, owning up. I don't know. Own up to what?
But you know what? You know what, Steve? You just owned up to the fact that you didn't have an answer for that. So you just owned up.
He is not perfect. He is not
perfect. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, it took two of you. 2 words. It takes 2 comics. It took 2 comics to come up with 2-word phrase. All right. Here's another one here for Jeff. Out of line.
Out of line?
Yeah.
About every question that you asked me over this past hour.
All right. I'm going to give you an easier one, Steve. Okay. Beefy.
What is it?
Beefy.
Oh, I'm going to have to go with the beefy 5-layer burrito from Taco Bell.
He loves his Taco Bell, Steve. Last time we were together, we had to stop at a Taco Bell.
We ate it a lot.
Yes, we got a ton of Taco. We spent like $30 in fucking Taco Bell. I couldn't believe I never had that high of a bill from Taco Bell. The beefy. All right, Jeff, bright-eyed.
Bright-eyed. Okay, bushy-tailed.
All right, there you go. And Steve, spectacular.
I am going to have to go with the clothes that Jeff Shaw wears on stage.
There you go. It is spectacular.
I don't know if you've ever seen his jackets. They are spectacular.
They are, and every time I see Jeff on stage and I think about what I wear on stage, I'm like, God, no wonder I'm not on a cruise ship. No wonder I'm not getting booked a year out.
If anything, if I got anything out of this podcast, other than 3 new followers, is the fact that I just learned that my old friend Steve McGrew has been watching what I've been up to lately. I've never been so flattered.
Well, see.
Hey, I follow you, so if you post something, it's getting seen.
Okay. Well, you know what? When we put the band back together, I'm gonna lend you a couple of my jackets.
Sweet. Sweet.
There you go.
But you have to promise me that you're going to sell your guitars and get a drum set and be our front guy.
Yes.
You got it.
On a stage that looks like a horseshoe. Well, that's all we have time for here on the Wake Up Late with Dougie show. It's been great to have Mr. Steve Mudflap McGrew and, of course, Jeff Shaw. And you guys can catch them on cruise ships and around the country. Real quick, Jeff, any quick way to get a hold of you? Get your stuff.
comedianjeffshaw.com. And if you live in the Lowell, Arkansas area, I'm going to be the 10th and 11th at the Grove in Lowell, Arkansas. It's a comedy oasis in Arkansas. I heard it's amazing. You've played there before, haven't you? Yeah. Steve, have you played there?
I have not, but I've heard about it. I've heard it's really good because I do Little Rock, and the rumor is you got to go. This place is awesome, you know.
Yeah, well, I'll mention you to the owner. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
And when I tell him that you're willing to wear one of my jackets, that'll seal the deal.
How about you, Steve? How can we find you?
I always just say Google Steve McGrew, but you can always find me at stevemcgrew.com. That's got everything.
There you go. And be sure to catch these fellows when they're out there. They are funny. As for me, this week on Tuesday through Sunday, I'm going to be at the LA Comedy Club opening for Quinn Dale. at the Stratosphere Hotel. So be sure to catch that. I'm going to be in San Luis Obispo the 23rd of February to the 26th, participating in the the SLO Comedy Festival. Go to DougieAlmeida.com for more dates. And God willing, we'll have another. We're going to keep this rotation going. We're going to try to keep this regular going. Although next week I'll be out of town, so we won't have a show next week. But stay tuned for more shows right here, right at this same spot. God bless. Be kind. And don't give money to bums.